Hello, here's my video for March 20th for 3rd grade. This will be covering different problems working with properties of multiplication. Our guest presenter Ernie may decide to show up at some point. He's been very hyperactive and wanting to play, so if he doesn't make it into the video, I have a bonus reel footage video of him and I playing with a toy right before starting this. So let's go ahead and take a look at the problems. There are a few lessons that have problems that have actual typos or misprints in them. And so number 6, when we get there, is one of those problems. So let's go ahead and take a look at number 1. Looking at the area model, we have a column of 6. And so using the commutative property to show the same multiplication fact, we could say 6 rows of 1, so 6 times 1, and then 1 times 6, and that would be letter B. Number 3, which problem has a product of 36? So if I start from the top, I could start with this and get 4 times 5 is 20, 20 times 3 is 60, so that's not going to be it. 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. Letter C, if we add this part first, we get 12 times 3, which would be 36, and that's going to be our answer. The other option would be 4 times 6, which would be 24. Number 4, which problem has the same value as 7 times 8? So we are looking at distributive property for this, where we will take two numbers, put them in parentheses, and if we add them together, we get the answer. And so our very first one gives us 7 times 8. The second one would be 7 times 9. Third one would be 7 times 9. And the last one would be 7 times 6. Number 2, which set of equations shows the commutative property of multiplication? So the first one shows multiplying numbers by 1. That's the identity property. And that says if we take a number and multiply it by 1, the answer is going to be the other number. The second one isn't actually a property at all. It just shows two different math facts, one for multiplication and one for addition. The third one, again, shows two different sets of factors that we could use to multiply to get 20. It doesn't show any particular property. And the last one does show the commutative property, which says we can switch the order of the numbers that we're multiplying together and still get the same answer. Number 6, which has the same value as this? So this is our one with a typo. This was supposed to be a problem that practices the distributive property. So the problem should read 5 times 4 plus 3. I always find out after the fact that which problems are the ones that have the typos. And so this is my 3rd year doing this book, but I still occasionally forget. So letter A would be the one that would match that. So if I split this part separately, I would get 5 times 4 plus 5 times 3. And so if I do that, I would get 5 times 7 inside here, which would be 35. And then I would have 20 plus 15, which also gives 35. Number 8, I've written everything in. So again, we're working with the distributive property. We're taking 7 times 7, splitting it apart into two smaller math facts. So our first step would be to rewrite it as 7 times 4 plus 3. Then we get our 7 times 4 plus 7 times 3, splitting it apart into two separate multiplication facts, taking the products of those, adding them together, and the answer is 49. Number 10, show whether the equation is true or false. So on the left-hand side, I have 6 times 7, and then using the distributive property, the two numbers that I would have to add inside have to equal 7 for this to be true. It would give us 6 times 5, so that one is false. The second one, 7 times 5, equals 7 times 2 plus 3. 2 plus 3 is equal to 5, so that one is true. The third one, 7 times 6, equals 7 times 3 times 3. The answer to 3 times 3 is 9. So 7 times 6 and 7 times 9 are not the same thing. The next one, 4 times 8 equals 4 times 8 plus 4 times 8. That would actually give us that would probably actually give us technically 4 times 16, or twice the answer to 4 times 8. So that is going to be false. The second to last one, 5 times 7 equals 5 times 2 plus 5 times 5. So if I take these two numbers and add them together, that should equal 7. They do. So 35 is equal to 10 plus 25. That is correct. And our last one, 8 times 4 equals 8 times 2 plus 2. The answer to this is 4, so that would also be correct. Number 11, use the associative property to show the answer to this. There are many different ways that you could do this. You could even use the commutative property and change the order of the numbers around and use the associative property. I just took the easiest option was to group 2 and 5 together so I can get a 10 and then count by 10. So 4 times 2 times 5, I have to do this part first to get 10. So 4 times 10 equals 40. And number 12, the first option is using the distributive property. So I would end up with 3 and 6 to get my 9. The second option is using the commutative property, so I just take the number that's missing and write that first. The third option is using the associative property, which says we can change the way that we group the numbers together and still get the same answer. So the 2 is just going to go in the middle because that's the factor that we are missing. The fourth option is also working with the associative property. Instead of grouping the right 2 numbers together, we're grouping the left 2 numbers together. And then the bottom one is using the distributive property. So we're taking our 7 and splitting it up into 5 plus 2. So hopefully that is helpful for you. I will add an extra video with Ernie since he didn't show up in this particular video. I hope everyone has a good weekend and a good spring break and stays safe and healthy during this time. Please know that all of our thoughts and prayers are with everyone in our Risen Christ family as we go through this situation together. Have a good weekend and have a great spring break, and I will see you on a week from Tuesday.